It began like a whisper, not a scandal, not a protest, just a letter. A few calm sentences written in bureaucratic Swedish, printed on clean paper, mailed from Stockholm to every municipality in the country. It didn't threaten, it didn't accuse, it simply invited. The government wanted help to send people away. The policy had a name that sounded harmless, even kind. Voluntary Return. It was part of a new initiative from Sweden's National Migration Coordinator, a program meant, on paper, to assist those who feel they have not found their place in Sweden. It promised support, tickets home to their own country, and cash grants, generous ones. A single adult could receive the equivalent of about $16,000. A family, close to $64,000. All you had to do was leave. At first, it seemed like just another government policy, something that would vanish after a few days in the headlines. But the story didn't vanish. It grew, spreading from the capital to the smallest corners of the country. Because behind the politeness of the letter was something no one wanted to admit out loud. That in a nation built on compassion, something colder was taking shape. In Sweden's far north, in a small town called Jokkmokk, local officials read the letter and refused. They didn't debate it for long. They simply said no. Municipal leader Roland Boman explained that Jokkmokk would not take part in a policy that, in his words, turns local government into an instrument for pushing people out. Soon after, Östersund made the same decision, and others quietly followed. Their reasoning was simple. Municipalities exist to help people settle, not to help them leave. But in Stockholm, the tone was different. Government ministers defended the plan, saying it was voluntary, not forced. A humane option for people who, for whatever reason, wanted to return home. The problem was, many of those people didn't want to. At least not until life in Sweden became unbearable. And that's what critics began to call the hidden truth. That what looks voluntary on paper might feel very different in reality. You see, the idea of paying people to leave isn't new. Versions of it have existed for years, in the Netherlands, in Denmark, in Germany. But in Sweden, the moral weight hits differently, because this is a country that built its identity on openness, fairness and refuge, where thousands of refugees were once welcomed as symbols of compassion, not statistics of burden. So, when the government began offering money to leave, it didn't feel like just another policy. It felt like a quiet betrayal. Imagine being one of those families. You came to Sweden seeking safety, maybe after fleeing war, or persecution, or poverty. You've lived here for years. Your children speak Swedish better than your native language. You work, pay taxes, send your kids to school, and believe that your life, finally, has a future. Then, one morning, there's a letter in your mailbox. It says you can get money if you go home. Home. But what does home even mean when your life is here? For many, that letter isn't an opportunity. It's a reminder that they are still seen as guests, and that guests can be asked to leave. Reports from local officials suggested that some residents felt confused when the program was first explained. Critics warned that the tone of the policy could make people fear deportation or believe their resident status might be affected. And so what's called voluntary begins to look, at least to its critics, a lot like quiet coercion. Those who oppose the program call it a moral crime, not one written in blood but in paperwork. A slow erosion of empathy disguised as efficiency. The kind of crime no one can be arrested for, yet everyone feels in their heart. Supporters insist it's humane, a way to help those who are struggling start over somewhere familiar. But to the people on the receiving end, it doesn't feel like kindness. It feels like a message. You don't belong here. And the debate spread far beyond Sweden. European newspapers began to ask, is this the future of migration policy? Compassion with a price tag? Amnesty International called it a dangerous precedent. Sociologists warned it could normalize emotional displacement, making people feel unwanted without ever saying the words. Even Swedish citizens began to question whether their government had crossed a moral line. Because in a country famous for its welfare, equality and empathy, what does it mean to start paying people to go away? One refugee from Iraq, speaking anonymously to Swedish radio, said something that captured the mood. They say it's voluntary, but what choice do you have when you're told every day that you don't fit in here? Her voice broke as she described her children, born in Sweden, speaking only Swedish, now facing the possibility of leaving the only home they've ever known. In towns like Jokkmokk, community groups have continued focusing on integration, arranging language cafes and local support networks, small acts of everyday solidarity. Several church representatives in Sweden have publicly voiced concern that compassion must remain at the heart of migration policy. And yet the government hasn't reversed the policy. The money is still on the table, and the letters still being sent. Officially, it's an offer of help. Unofficially, it's a test of conscience, because somewhere between kindness and cruelty lies a dangerous middle ground, where actions look good on paper, but feel wrong in the heart. And that's where this story lives, not in anger, not in blame, but in the uneasy silence of a country trying to decide what kind of place it wants to be. So we ask again, not as politicians or critics, but as people. When does help become harm? When does compassion become control? And when the price of leaving becomes higher than the pain of staying, can any choice really be called voluntary? What do you think? Is Sweden showing kindness or crossing a line that can never be uncrossed? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to 0 Hour Files for more stories that expose the fine line between justice, morality and power. Because next episode, we travel to the United States, where a father did the unthinkable to protect his child. A story that forces us to ask, how far would you go for justice? Thank you for watching. And we'll see you in the next episode of 0 Hour Files.